So, we're all hearing about this incredible new era, right? Where AI is going to be our partner in science, just churning out discoveries. It sounds amazing. But what if there's a huge hidden problem with this shiny new toy?
All right, let's just jump right in with a quote that really sets the stage. It's from the super important paper by Gupta and Pruthi. They say, amidst the prevailing optimism, we document a critical concern. A considerable fraction of such research documents are smartly plagiarized. Whoa, plagiarized. That is a heavy word. So how on earth did they come to that conclusion? We've got to unpack this.
Okay, first, let's get on the same page. This idea, this dream of the AI scientist, it's everywhere you look. We're not just talking about AI writing your emails anymore. The big promise is that these large language models, the tech behind stuff like ChatGPT, can come up with truly original, groundbreaking scientific ideas, like complete research proposals from scratch. And look, this wasn't just hype. There was a big study back in 2024, Tsai and colleagues, that actually tested this. They had real experts look at research proposals, some from AI, some from humans. And get this, the experts rated the AI's ideas as being more novel than the human ones. I mean, can you believe that? Naturally, everyone got super excited.
But the researchers we're talking about today, Gupta and Pruthi, they saw those results and thought, something feels off. They decided to ask a totally different kind of question, a much more suspicious one. And this, right here, is where their work gets really interesting.
So they came up with this brand new framework called Situational Logic. And the core idea is just brilliant in its simplicity. Think about it. All the previous studies basically told the experts, hey, assume this is original work. Now tell us how cool and new it is. Gupta and Pruthi flipped that completely on its head. They said, nope, assume it's copied. Your job is to be a detective and hunt for the proof. It's like switching from being an art critic to a crime scene investigator.
And that's the whole ball game right there. They didn't just tweak a variable, they reframed the entire problem. They just stopped asking, is this new, and started asking, is this stolen? That one little change in the research question, well, it changed everything.
So, okay, how did they actually go about hunting for these so-called stolen ideas? Well, their methodology is really a core part of their contribution. It was this really clever two-part investigation, and it's so well laid out that others can actually reproduce it, which is huge in science.
Okay, step one was the human-led hunt. They got 13 experts, real specialists in their fields, and handed them 50 research docs that were all generated by LLMs. And some of these were the same ones that got those high novelty scores in earlier studies. But here's the kicker, the crucial instruction. They were told to put on their detective hats. They had to start with the assumption that the work was plagiarized, and their mission was to track down the original. And they weren't just winging it, they had a system. The experts used this 5-point scale to score what they found. You can see a 1 means totally original, no problem, but look up at the top. A 5 means direct copy. We're talking a 1-to-1 match of the core ideas. A 4 is combined borrowing, meaning it's basically stitched together from 2 or 3 other papers. For the purposes of this study, if something got a 4 or a 5, that was the smoking gun. That was plagiarism.
All right, on to part 2 of their methodology. This is where they test the machines that are supposed to catch this stuff automatically. See, they knew they couldn't just use those 50 examples. It's not enough data. So they did something really clever. They used GPT-4o to generate a whole new dataset of 480 papers that they knew were plagiarized. They basically created their own library of forgeries to see if tools like Turnitin could spot them. So the experiment is designed. The detective work is done. The traps are set. Time to see what they found. And honestly, the results were pretty shocking.
Okay, here's the first headline number, 24%. And to be clear how they got this, it wasn't just the expert's opinion. This is a crucial part of their method. When an expert flagged a paper, the researchers went a step further. They contacted the authors of the original paper and asked, hey, does this look copied to you? And in 24% of the cases, the original authors confirmed it. Yes, this is basically our work.
So, is 24% a lot? Well, let's put it in perspective. We're looking at a comparison here. For papers written by humans, the estimated plagiarism rate is, somewhere between about 1 and 6%. The AI-generated papers, a verified 24%. That is
A huge difference. We're talking anywhere from 4 to 30 times higher. That's not a small gap.
Okay, well, what about our safety net? The automated tools like Turnitin that universities and publishers use. Well, remember that synthetic data set of 480 fake papers they built? The researchers ran those tools on it. And the accuracy? Zero. A big, fat 0%. Not a single tool they tested could identify the original source paper, not once.
And this isn't just about numbers. You've got to see an example. This is a real smoking gun from their analysis. On the left, the AI's proposal says to construct the resonance graph. On the right, the original human paper says define the symmetric weighted adjacency matrix. Now, if you're not a mathematician, that might look different. But it's not. It is the exact same concept, just dressed up in different words. This is exactly what they mean by smart plagiarism.
So, you can probably guess what happened next. A paper this explosive is going to cause some drama. And it's super important we talk about the debate that kicked off, because it really forces us to ask, what does plagiarism even mean when an AI is doing the writing? The team behind one of the AI systems that was analyzed, a project called the AI Scientist, they pushed back hard. They called the findings unfounded, inaccurate, and extreme. Their argument was, look, this isn't plagiarism. It's just methodological overlap. People build on each other's work all the time in science. And here's their key point. An AI can't intend to steal, so it can't technically plagiarize.
But that's not the only way to look at it. A well-known plagiarism expert, Deborah Weber-Wolf, has a different take. She argues that intent is totally irrelevant. For her, it's simple. Is there missing attribution? If an idea is taken and the original source isn't credited, that's the problem. It doesn't matter if a person or a program did it. And really, this entire debate boils down to how you define that one word.
Okay, so setting aside the academic back and forth for a second, let's talk about the big picture. What does this mean for the future of science? Why should we care about any of this?
Well, here are the big takeaways. First, the peer review system that science relies on, it's already overworked. A flood of this kind of smart plagiarism could completely break it. Second, those automatic detectors we thought were our safety net, they're basically useless against this stuff. The study also teaches us something really fundamental about AI. The way we frame our questions, the way we choose to evaluate these systems, completely changes the answers we find. And it all leads to one huge blinking red light. We need a whole new rulebook for academic integrity in the age of AI, and we need it now.
And you know what? The scientific community paid attention, big time. For this incredibly detailed and pretty controversial research, the paper won the Outstanding Paper Award at ACL 2025. That's one of the biggest conferences in this field. So this wasn't some fringe theory. The community recognized it as a crucial must-read piece of work.
And all of this leaves us with one last massive question to think about. We are racing ahead, trying to use AI to build our future, to solve the biggest problems in science and technology. But this research forces us to stop and ask a really uncomfortable question. Who's going to check the AI's homework?